Update, brought to you by Simcox Advocates, advising businesses and families since 1949. Visit simcox.com or call 690 300. Manx Radio's Update with Andy Wint.
Faster my good evening, it's 5:30. This is Update for Friday 18th of August 2023 from Manx Radio. 30 minutes to look at the latest news on the Isle of Man. Background to that news and sport and business and sea watch and travel updates. And the newsmakers in person this evening. Peel's better sewage facilities won't mean a blue flag. Manx Care says pay options are limited. MGP supporters want the 9-day format reviewed. Respite services back at Hospice Isle of Man. And Peel take on Corinthians for silverware tomorrow.
Man Benham for all your business and legal needs.
First of all, at 29 minutes ahead of 6 o'clock, the Update News headlines. Faster my Dave Moore.
Faster my Manx Care insists their options remain limited in offering health staff a pay rise. Earlier this week, members of the Royal College of Nursing toured the island in a bid to raise awareness of their ongoing dispute. Sailings to and from Heysham tomorrow have been cancelled. The Ben McCree was due to operate the crossings instead of the Manxman due to weather conditions. A decision on whether the Manannan will sail to Liverpool in the morning will be made by 6 a.m. Just over 5% of flights in and out of the island during June were cancelled. According to the Civil Aviation Authority, of the 1,028 scheduled services, 59 failed to take off. More families have been told their children may be victims of killer nurse Lucy Ledby, who's been convicted of murdering 7 babies and attempting to kill 6 others. Police are looking into her entire career, including training placements at Liverpool Women's Hospital. Manchester Crown Court heard she used various ways to harm infants at the Countess of Chester Hospital between June 2015 and June 2016, like injecting air into their bloodstream and poisoning with insulin. Ledby is now the UK's most prolific child killer of modern times. Meanwhile, an independent inquiry has been ordered to examine what happened. Those are the Update News headlines. The next bulletin is at 6.
Man Benham. Contact us by phone, video call, email or face-to-face. We're happy to connect with you. Manx Radio Weather with Manx Glass and Glazing.
Goromaya, thank you, Dave. From the Ronaldsway Met Office, there is a gale warning in operation for the North Irish Sea. State of sea is moderate or rough. And the weather tonight, more heavy rain this evening on a strong to gale force easterly, overnight minimum 16 degrees. A wet morning for tomorrow, clearing around lunchtime, then dry with sunny spells in a strong to gale force southwesterly. Daylight maximum 17 tomorrow, less windy in the evening, down to 15 through the night into Jadouni, and dry on Sunday with sunny spells and a fresh southwesterly, top temperature 20 degrees. Low water tonight, 16 minutes before 8. The sun sets at 17 minutes to 9. There's a yellow warning for coastal overtopping at the high tide at 19 minutes before 2, so an hour either side of that, watch out. Sunrise 2 minutes past 6, and low water tomorrow morning 12 minutes past 8.
Manx Glass and Glazing can supply and install single, double and triple glazing. Call 674 573 or visit the showroom on the Snugborough Trading Estate.
Improving sewage facilities in Peel won't result in a blue flag beach. Chair of Peel Commissioner says she's ever hopeful the Manx Utilities plans will be successful. Hazel Hannon says it will benefit Sunset City.
Peel's waited a long time for treated sewage, and there was an occasion 13 years ago when we could have had. This is a different system, and this system is something that I personally can support. The board hasn't actually had a vote on it. We've been very involved in encouraging the development of something like this. The MUA seem quite confident that they've done all the planning issues. So I personally am hopeful that this will come into fruition, that we will have treated sewage and the bay, the water, will be very high standard. Most people that came to see the display of what's happening and where it is and everything were very hopeful. The comments that I've received were very hopeful that this is it and we're going to get the works. Manx legislation is up to the EU legislation standards. We won't get a blue flag even when it's done, because blue flag, you have to have all sorts of other things in place, which is lifeguards the whole of the time, and we're not going to go down those roads. So, but yes, I'm ever hopeful that we can succeed with this. But it has to go to planning, and they have to comply with all the planning legislation to make this work.
Just over 5% of flights in and out of Ronaldsway during June were cancelled. Dave's back with the detail.
According to the Civil Aviation Authority, of the 1,028 scheduled services, 59 failed to take off. 4 other airports in the British Isles had on average a worse record throughout the month: Alderney, London City, Wick and Tyree. The number of cancellations at Ronaldsway during this period is a slight increase on May, which stood at just under 5%. However, it is an improvement on the months of March and April, where around 1 in 10 flights were grounded. At the time, Ronaldsway had the worst total of any airport in the British Isles. This was while the instrument landing system was updated on one of the runways. Without it, planes can't land when there are visibility issues. The work was completed at the beginning of April, but further maintenance on the aerodrome fibre optic network was carried out at the end of that month.
Update brought to you by Simcox Advocates.
Just a quick word about that yellow weather warning for coastal overtopping. So around 20 to 2 tomorrow morning, or an hour either side. Expect debris onto exposed coastal roads around central and southern parts of Douglas Prom, Laxey and Ramsey Proms, and Port St Mary and the end of Shore Road Rush. And tomorrow afternoon, high waters at 10 past 2, so again an hour either side. Shore Road Rush and Castletown Prom, the north end of Douglas Prom, and to a lesser extent Laxey and Ramsey Proms. It's hoped the shorter 9-day format of the Manx Grand Prix can be reviewed possibly as early as next year. So says the MGP Supporters Club, whose chair is Alan Brew.
Yeah, I mean, the new format was okay. Disappointing for a lot of people. Purists for the Manx Grand Prix, you know, they've always been used to a 2-week format. So going to a 10-day format, which it was last year, was disappointing. Resulted in a loss of 1 or 2 races that we've had previously. So from that point of view, it was disappointing. The event actually did go quite well. We were lucky with the weather, which is obviously a factor when you reduce the format down to 10 days. And it's the same for this year, which again, from a personal point of view, that is disappointing.
They've brought in a couple of new classes. They've expanded what was the lightweight class. The ultra lightweight's coming back in as well. So what do you make of that, the fact that it's being opened out more this year? Yeah, I mean, that's a positive move, definitely. The lightweight race last year didn't have many entries or many finishes, so that was disappointing for the fans. So to open up the event to include more entries is good. The organisers of the Manx Motorcycle Club insist that this is not the last year of the Manx Grand Prix and that this new format is ensuring the longevity of it for the future. Where do you see it? Yeah, I mean, I definitely see a future for the MGP and for the TT. Both events bring a lot of people to the island, so the income that brings to the island is beneficial. So why would we want to lose 1 or 2 of those events? You know, it doesn't make sense. The formats, I think, can be reviewed and looked at and improved on for next year possibly. The hope from last year was that this year's event, being the centennial, possibly may be open back up to 2 weeks, but that hasn't happened.
The Isle of Man's health body insists its options remain limited as the ongoing pay dispute continues. This week, members of the Royal College of Nursing Union took to the roads to raise awareness of their plea for better paying conditions from Manx Care. The story from Christian Jones.
Nurses say their dispute isn't just about pay, but also covers staffing issues and concerns for patient safety. Manx Care blames financial constraints and says it's exhausted its funding allocation. It goes on to say all funding that has been received by the organisation to be used for pay awards has already been used. The union is demanding a 15% pay increase. So far they've been offered a 10% rise on top of a further consolidated 2%. Manx Care insists it remains open to discussions with the RCN, but says despite recognition of the need for additional nursing staff, there remain challenges. A recruitment action plan has been been implemented, which has seen partnerships with international agencies and subsequently seen a large number of registered nurses move to the Isle of Man. Financial incentives for student nurses to complete on-island nursing degrees have been increased, doubling the figure from £5,000 to £10,000 per year. The number of placements for registered general and mental health nurse placements has also doubled. However, despite these recruitment drives, the organisation says there continues to be staffing shortfalls.
Sea Watch with the Isle of Man Steam Packet Company.
At 20 to 6, the ever-faithful Ben McCree departed Heysham at 27 minutes past 2. She's just about to enter Douglas Harbour. We'll be on the link span in 10 minutes or so. Out this evening at 8:15 to Heysham just before midnight. Overnight departures 2:15 and back to Douglas at 6 tomorrow morning. Manannan, the high-speed craft, left Douglas at 4 o'clock. She'll be in Liverpool about 6:45, departing at 8 o'clock this evening and back to Douglas at 10:45. Tomorrow morning's departures, Manannan 7:15 to Liverpool may happen subject to cancellation or disruption. Listen to Manx Radio. The final decision will be 6 o'clock tomorrow morning. Tomorrow morning's 8:45 Ben McCree to Heysham has been cancelled.
Follow the Steam Packet on Twitter for the latest sailing information.
The first piece of silverware is up for grabs ahead of the new Manx football season. Men's Premier League champions Peel face FA Cup winners Corinthians in the Eric Fletcher Charity Shield tomorrow. Manx Radio's football correspondent Tony Mepham.
It's going to be interesting just to see how strong their squad is because from what I'm hearing, there's not too many players gone there, but they had a strong contingent. How many of them start to go to university? That's always a big question. So it's all been a little bit secret, but no doubt about it, Dan Bell and Mark Kelly, the management team there, had a great team last year. They got to a cup final as well, so it's just one of those. They've just got to develop these young players and hopefully they'll progress and give them the league and give them the Charity Shield that they're after on Saturday. When you look at Corinthians, I think it's going to be a tough all season for the boys, but there's a lot of good young players coming through, so that's something that we're just going to have to watch and see. A couple of them played last year and looked really good, and Nathan Robinson, who's been sort of waiting, champing at the bit to turn 16, his first game playing in a white shirt, and he sleeps and breathes Corinthians. He scored against FC Isle of Man, so that'll live in his memory for a long time. So it bodes well for a great game. Just to keep people posted, it's the reason why we've gone for this week is because FC Isle of Man have got no game, and also the main one is that there's no extra time, so after 90, if it's all square, we move it straight into a penalty shootout, so it should be interesting.
How much of a boost mentally can winning a piece of silverware like this have going into a new season? Well,
I think it's just like the bragging rights, isn't it? A team wins and they're all for it, and the team loses and think, how are we going to do this season? But I think at the moment there seems to be a little bit of buzz out there with clubs because some have started training early. There's a lot of friendlies going on. Yes, there's some teams out there struggling for numbers. Those clubs out there that are struggling a little bit for players, just hang in there, and hopefully the players will sort of look at it and think, well, I'm going to come back, I'm going to play. Why not go to a club where I can help them out?
Manx Radio Business Briefing.
At 17 minutes before 6, Estee Lauder's shares traded lower today after reporting that financial performance was hindered by the slow recovery of China and Korea from the pandemic, resulting in a 10% decline in net sales to $15.91 billion, a 57.7% decrease in net earnings to $1.01 billion for the fiscal year ending June 30th. Company attributed the disappointing results to subdued travel retail sales in those regions due to ongoing COVID restrictions and an accumulation of unsold stock. And for a full daily market report, go to ramseycrocourt.com. The holding company Exor's acquired a 15% stake in the Dutch conglomerate Philips for €2.6 billion. The FT and Reuters reported that the investment may pay off. Karen Kwok, the reporter, said as Philips' efforts to pivot from consumer electronics to healthcare suffered a setback after the recall of respiratory devices since 2021 and sent its stock tumbling. It could now offer an upside of up to 37% as Exor's show of faith may help convince other investors that Philips is on the right track. Exor also has stakes in Ferrari, Juventus Football Club Club and the French fashion house Christian Louboutin. It's now the largest shareholder in Philips. The deal was finalised without triggering the usually required disclosures about the investment bank Goldman Sachs taking a roughly 12% stake in Philips.
The Stock Market Report, brought to you by Ramsey Crookall.
UK and European markets retreated today. The FTSE 100 fell to its lowest level in 9 months. US stocks were flat. Gold gained as the dollar and bond yields eased, and the dollar hovered above a 2-month high. The numbers from Ramsey Crookall at the close in London. The FTSE 100 down just over 0.6% at 7,263. In Frankfurt, Germany, the DAX closed down 0.5% at 15,593. A short time ago in New York City, the Dow Jones Industrial Index up just over 0.1% at 34,516. The Nasdaq Tech Stocks Index down 0.4% at 13,260, and the S&P 500 in Chicago down roughly 0.1% at 4,367. But lots to go across the other side of the Atlantic. In the exchange markets, the British pound sterling is trading at $1 27.4 cents, €1 17.2 cents, and 24 South African rand 13.7 cents. In commodities, gold's up 0.2% to $1,892 per troy ounce, and a barrel of Brent crude is up 0.6% at $84.32.
You've got an investment plan?
Yeah, Mike set it up.
But don't you need loads of money to do that?
Not this one. It's called Shearwater from Ramsey Crookall, and you pay in monthly as little as £100. So it's like saving regularly, really helping us invest in the future for a house, or the kids' education.
£100 a month? I could easily do that.
You should. The sooner you start, the better.
Invest in your future with as little as £100 a month. Shearwater from Ramsey Crookall, the island's investment specialist for 75 years. Call 717171 or visit ramseycrookall.com. Licensed and regulated by the Isle of Man Financial Services Authority.
Isle of Man Water Sports. Weather with Manx Glass and Glazing.
Here's a relevant information. If you're sailing, kayaking, windsurfing, paddleboarding, sea swimming, diving or surfing this weekend, basically, watch out. Sea temperatures 15 degrees. For tomorrow, Saturday, the wind is southeasterly, force 6 to gale force 8, quickly veering south-southwesterly, decreasing force 6 or 7 later, then 5 or 6 overnight. Wave height 2.5 to 3 metres, building 4 to 4.5 metres, then 1.5 to 2 metres overnight. Wave period 6 or 7 seconds. High tide is 9 minutes past 2 tomorrow. And for Sunday, the wind is southwesterly, force 5, increasing 5 or 6 Sunday evening, decreasing 4 or 5 later. Wave height 1.5 to 2 metres, decreasing 1 to 1.5 metres. Wave period 5 to 6 seconds. And high tide is 22 minutes to 3 p.m.
Manx Glass and Glazing can produce bespoke splashbacks for your kitchen in any colours. Speak to the team on 674 573.
Respite services have been reintroduced at Hospice Isle of Man. They were suspended due to financial constraints and staffing shortages during the pandemic, and the service will run in the existing inpatient unit at the facility after a donation from the Henry Bloom Noble Healthcare Trust. Chief Exec at the Hospice is John Knight.
We've spoken to Henry Bloom Noble trustees over a period of time, clearly, successfully put a case forward of how important this is to the island's community. I mean, clearly their focus is on the patients and the families and those benefits. So, yeah, we're absolutely thrilled that they've got behind it, and we're able to recruit some members into our team, but, get those beds open. And again, I think that adds to this whole momentum that the community want to see the hospice fully open and fully operational, and that's our ambition.
And it'll be the 2 fully staffed beds, is that correct?
The staff will not be, if you like, ring-fenced to respite beds. They will be part of a larger cohort of staff on the inpatient unit, but it means those 2 beds can be open.
Looking longer term, the pressures still remain on the organisation.
Yeah, absolutely. And I get asked that question a lot, and I feel we have to grow our ability to generate income for the organisation. We're pleased with our relationship with Manx Care and the funding they direct towards us. As a charity, clearly we actively fundraise. We've got our commercial arm in Share the Care, the shops around the island. We've certainly got thoughts on further diversification to generate money for the charity. But I don't think it'll ever be easy, and there'll ever be one box that we can tick to find the solution. I just feel we've got to be very focused on it, very professional in the events that we offer and the things we do that make people want to come back and support the hospice.
This is the most listened to Isle of Man news source, and Manx Radio's Update is the Isle of Man's most downloaded news podcast.
Manx Radio Sport.
Fast am I, Rob Pritchard.
Fast am I. Good evening. In motorsport, Jamie Coward has confirmed he won't be taking part in this year's Manx Grand Prix.
100th anniversary would have been one of my favourite events of the year. I love riding the classic bikes and I love riding around the mountain course, and unfortunately I'm not going to be there this year, so I'll keep you posted what's going on, and I'll keep chipping away, and hopefully we're back end of the season sometime.
The rider suffered a fractured pelvis after colliding with a car while cycling in the Lake District on his way to the recent Armoy Road races in late July. In an update on social media, Coward says although his recovery is going really good, he was still suffering with pain during a test ride last Sunday. He's apologising to supporters and sponsors and describes MGP as one of his favourite events of the year, and is thanking people for their continued support. In athletics, Corin Leeming was once again at the top of the pile in the penultimate round of the No Rest for the Wicked series last night. Leeming took victory in the Foxdale 5 and set a new course record in a time of 25 minutes 49 seconds in the process. Second was Sam Jones in 27 minutes 18 seconds, with Mark Berman once again in good form, exactly 1 minute behind Jones to take third. Elsewhere, Becky Pate consolidated her lead at the top of the women's series with a strong time of 32 minutes 21 seconds, with Becky Watterson taking another solid second place and visiting triathlete Julie Randerson taking third. The final round is the Peel Heritage Trail Run this evening. And in cycling, two of the Isle of Man's elite competitors will be involved in respective competitions across Europe from this weekend. Manx under-23 competitor Max Walker is set to represent the Great Britain squad in the Tour de l'Avenir in France, with the first stage getting underway on Sunday. Walker and his fellow competitors will kick things off at the event that day with a 140km route from Carnac to Lagasilly. Elsewhere, Manx resident Ben Swift will be back in action for Ineos Grenadiers on the same day at the BMS Cyclassics event in Hamburg, Germany. That's due to start on Sunday at around 8:45am local time.
Manx Radio Travel, driven by Quayside Tyres and Service Centre.
Inbound at Ronaldsway, the 5:30 EasyJet won't be in until 6 o'clock. The 10 to 8 Loganair from London City's on time. The 5 to 8 Loganair returning patient transfer from Liverpool's on time. And the 8:30 EasyJet from Gatwick showing on time. So outbound 6 o'clock EasyJet to Manchester is delayed until 6:30. The 6 o'clock Loganair to Liverpool's on time, and the 9 o'clock EasyJet return to London Gatwick showing on time. At the moment, the matrix signs pointing towards the mountain at Burrell Park, Barrow, Sulby, Ramsey and Hilbury are all showing fog, and there are temporary lights in Queen Street, Castletown between the Parade and Farrants Way for work on the pavement. East Quay Peels closed between House of Manannan and the Road Bridge for work on the road and pavement, and temporary lights in Douglas at Victoria Road at the Falcon Cliff Terrace junction for water main work. York Road, Douglas is closed for resurfacing between Woodburn Road and Ballaquail Road, and Hillside Avenue is closed until next June, or the middle of next June. It's closed for adjacent office window replacement. Annika Road and Cushiock Road in Farm Hill are closed in phases for resurfacing. In Glenmona, the Doon Loop Road's closed for ditching work. And remember, MGP starts this Sunday. The mountain roads open to two-way traffic through the MGP period. On Sunday, the mountain roads closed from midday 45 till no later than 6, and on Monday from 6 p.m. until no later than 9.
H&H Motorcycles.im for all your motorcycle requirements. Southgate Industrial Estate, opposite Quayside Tyres. Call 665646. Update brought to you by Simcox Advocates, advising businesses and families since 1949. Visit simcox.com or call 690-300.
Thanks for joining Manx Radio this filthy Friday evening on the Isle of Man. I'm Andy, with you through till 6. Rob Pritchard, our sports editor, hosts Friday Sport at 6. The Greatest Hits with Chris Kinley at 6:30. Sweet and Swing Jazz with Howie Kane at 9, and Dave Moore with The Late Show After Hours at 10. If you enjoy a leisurely stroll among sunflowers this summer, you may get more than you bargained for. That's the case in the UK, where some sunflower farmers who who open their fields to the public have been forced to erect signage asking visitors to not take their clothes off for photo shoots among the blooms. Remember Calendar Girls? Zoe Hampton runs the Bigfoot Sunflower Field in Ballabeg. So has she encountered any scantily clad customers among the blooms?
We have, knowingly, I have had one lady in our very first year. She came down and she'd had breast cancer, and I believe that she'd been inspired by the Calendar Girls, and she asked if it would be okay to go down and do it. So she went down the very bottom of the field, away from everyone, with a couple of her friends, and I believe they did the photo shoot. They sent me the photos, but I don't know if she ever put them on Facebook, and that's the only one I knowingly am aware of. I don't know if anybody else has been up there and done any other photo shoots, but
I suppose it'd be quite hard to be sure, really, wouldn't it? Because they are quite good for hiding things.
They are, yeah. We've got 2 big fields this year, so obviously if you went off down the very bottom of the field, it's that big. Even if there was hundreds of people there, it's quite private.
Calendar Girls does seem to be the driving force behind this, doesn't it? And that seems to be the motive for a lot of people in the UK.
Yes, I believe so, yes.
And how long have you been running the farm down there now?
This is our 3rd year. In the first year, we really, it was my husband that wanted to grow them. He just wanted to see really if they would grow, because there's an awful lot of sunflower fields in the south of France, and we're obviously a lot further north, so we didn't know if they would grow, and they did, and they grew really well. So after a couple of weeks of trying to convince them that we could do sunflower walks, we opened to the public, and we've just gone from strength to strength to strength. It's really popular.
Well, that's great. And the good news, of course, now, as you've explained, you haven't been finding any suspect items of clothing or anything like that in the rows.
No.
Do you think Simon Richardson was embarrassed? That's it for Update Tonight, compiled from resources of Manx Radio's news department. Thanks to newsreader Dave Moore, producer Rhiann Evans. I'm Andy Wint. We'll make the most of the weekend. The Port Erin Beach Day is Sunday, by the way, and I'll be back Monday at 5:30.
WI